Hello, my name is Hunter Hoberg. I'm a student with the G17 class at Galvanize. I've written a simple program called Haiku17. It writes randomized haikus. It's Haiku17 for human imitation quasi-poet. 17 because we're the 17th class at Galvanize, and I think I went through about 17 cups of coffee a day making this. And haikus have 17 syllables typically. So on this website, I've got my topics up here. If I click on one, we get a random haiku. Um, kind of makes sense. The end goal is to have about 50 topics up here. Right now, I only have these three, but if I click on another topic, we'll get another haiku. And these haikus, they're randomized. They have a bank of words they can choose from and certain sentence structures, but about half the time we get haikus that make sense and half the time they make no sense. I figured it would be about the same way if you asked 100 random people to write a haiku. So also on the website I've got my menu sidebar. Here I explain a lot of what I'm explaining to you and then lay out what I'd like to do next. I wrote this program because I write a lot of poetry myself, and I was kind of thinking what makes poetry human, what makes art human, and I think that there's actually nothing tangible that does that. I think we assign meaning. If I were to take one of these poems and publish it under my own name, I think that people might not question it very much. So that's basically why I made the program and kind of how the website works for now. So as far as the development process, I initially created just a single word bank, a lot smaller than this one. This is just for trees, but I wrote a simple word bank and a simple program that would put these together into a haiku, and I made sure it worked. Once it did, I went about the process of creating more banks. So I've got trees here, mammals, fish. The goal is to continue adding words to these banks. It's surprisingly hard to think of, 100, 150 words about a given topic, but eventually I want to have 50 banks, each with a plethora of words. Um, and then after that, I started doing my grammar rules. So I'm adding to these every single day. I'll be in the middle of a conversation and I'll think, oh, here's an exception to this one rule I wrote. So it's things like pluralizing certain nouns if you have a verb after it, or vice versa, I guess. After that, I created functions where I would put these words into a single line and then compile lines into a poem, and then using jQuery, I would push it as a DOM element onto my site. And I also used a framework called UI-Kit, and that's how I've styled my HTML. It's a little lacking right now, but I figured that's something I can work on once I have the core functionality a little further along. The CSS was fairly simple for this. It's maybe going to get a little longer as I add more themes, but still, it'll be pretty simple. So, what's next for this website? I mean, the first thing is adding themes, starting with these four right here, and then eventually, I guess 43 more is my goal. But the next goal is to continue working on these grammar rules. As I said, I think of them every single day. I'll be falling asleep and I'll remember that you have to add a K to the end of a word like panic when you're making it into a verb. And so I'm going to add more of those grammar rules and themes, but the long-term goal is to actually combine an AI or an API like IBM's Watson concept expansion, where you could type in a word like predators, and it would give you all these topics. You'd probably get predators versus alien 20 times and then something actually about predators. But the goal with that is to have hypothetically an infinite amount of haikus that could be written. The big problems with that are one, Watson Watson doesn't really have a filter, and it learns from the internet, so I would have to devise a filter that would somehow catch every inappropriate haiku that Watson would want to write. The second issue with that, I guess, is organizing the words by type. It might not be so hard if I can use a dictionary API in conjunction with something like Watson's concept expansion. And then kind of the hardest part is organizing by syllable. As of yet, I have not found an API that organizes words by syllable, so I would have to create rules, but it's very difficult. I mean, human beings have a hard time with that, and even some words like bastion is one that I saw earlier. We say it as if it's two. Really, it's three syllables. And there's some that really throw you for loops like that. So I'd have to try and create functions that would catch all of that. Doable, but it'll take some time. I guess the last thing after making the program infinite, I guess, is making the site pretty. It's pretty bland right now, but someday I'm gonna get to that. So that's Haiku17 in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed listening to this, and let me know if you have any suggestions or questions. Thanks.